Congressman Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us this morning. How much would you be willing to pay for Gaza?
Well, I think what the president's saying is, first of all, you've got bomb disposal that has to be taken care of. America has some of the best bomb disposal privateers in the world. Our construction engineers are the best. Our electricians are the best. I think we could get in there and rebuild that and maybe offer those folks there a little better life. Currently, right now, some of them don't have water, and the reason they don't have water is because the terrorists they take the pipes and turn them into missiles and shoot them back at Israel. That's a known fact. So I think a lot of things need to happen. I think what President Trump is saying, it's not going to be an American territory. I believe he's saying let American capitalists get in there and turn that area around.
Well, he wasn't talking just about bomb disposal. He was talking about a long-term ownership position. Those were his exact words 2 days ago and this morning. Just a short time ago, he said the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States. Turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. I'm just asking you, how much of the U.S. budget do you think should be devoted to that?
Again, if y'all want me to talk, I will. But what he was saying, in my opinion, was that Americans possibly have ownership in it, just like the Chinese have ownership in farm property in this country and vital property near our military installations. I don't hear anybody raising Cain about that. We ought to have the same opportunity there as the Chinese have in this country, and that's plenty. And I believe if capitalism took over there and maybe democracy, you would see a change. But what we're doing right now is not working. It hasn't worked since biblical times, and we know that. So maybe we could try something a little new and get a different answer.
I hear what you're saying. Would you be willing to commit U.S. taxpayer dollars to ownership of parts of Gaza?
We're in over 30 countries right now, and I dare say most congressmen couldn't find some of those countries on the globe. I don't want our military over there. I don't want boots on the ground. That gets our people killed and gets into another conflict, which we don't need to be in and we can't afford. I think, again, if American entrepreneurs want to invest over there, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think you could turn that area around for those folks over there and get rid of some of their worthless leadership, because the leaders of Gaza are not in Gaza. They're in Qatar and other areas. They're billionaires, and those people there are living without just essentials, and they continue to do that. They continue to preach hate. They don't want change, because if you get change, they're out of power.
What would
as young men, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What would you do with the Palestinians who don't want to leave Gaza?
I'd let them stay there. Let them. Maybe they would become entrepreneurs. Maybe we could offer them opportunities in a job market instead of just being cannon fodder for a bunch of old rich billionaires that continue to stay in power because they continue to be funded. And this gives them an opportunity at something a little better in life, I think.
And Donald Trump, the president, continues to talk about relocating Palestinians in Gaza. He mentioned Jordan. He mentioned Saudi Arabia. Do you think the United States, would you be willing to accept some Palestinians relocated from Gaza?
We already have Palestinians in America, and some of them are the finest people that I know. They live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they're wonderful Americans. If they want to assimilate and become Americans, but if they don't, if they want to bring terrorism and hatred and things like that in this country, I don't think we should. But we have a pretty good record with Palestinians, at least in Tennessee, so I welcome them.
So you would add the U.S. to the list along with Jordan and Egypt that the president is talking about in terms of relocation?
If they had sponsors, if these people were not if they weren't terrorists, if they weren't to do for destruction of our country, yeah. But that's the problem you're going to have. There's a pretty good litmus test that they should follow, and unfortunately, we haven't been doing that in the past. I mean, we have 14 million people in our country. We don't know where they are. We have members of the Taliban. We have Chinese communist spies working out of the Capitol. I mean, we've got these people all over the place. We need to provide a legitimate litmus test for those folks.
So, Congressman, I want to ask about some statements you've made in various interviews and help us to understand what you've been saying. You've been talking about extraterrestrial life on planet Earth. One of the things you said in an interview, you talked about a conversation you had with a U.S. admiral. They tell me something's moving at hundreds of miles an hour underwater, as large as a football field underwater. This was a documented case, and I have an admiral telling me this stuff. What do you believe exists on Earth in terms of extraterrestrial life, and what have you seen proof of?
Well, there's some things I've seen proof of that I can't discuss, and I've urged the White House to disclose these things. You know, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars researching something, and then you have one group telling us they don't exist, and I have the best pilots in the world telling me, Tim, this thing was 14 feet from my canopy, and he went and he did this, and I've seen things that I wish the public could see. There's just a lot of unknowns. And again, they tell us they don't exist, but then they issue redacted reports, and they're still studying. Almost every one of our alphabet agencies has that. And we had testimony that said they have a recovery unit. Now, what are they recovering? I'd like to know. It's our tax dollars. We have a right to know. And when government thinks that we can't handle what's going on out there, that's when government's gotten a little too big, and we need to cut their wings off. And right now they're spending, our Pentagon has got all this dark money. You have the alphabet agency studying these things. One group will tell us they exist, the other one doesn't. I just think it's time that we have total disclosure. And you all in the press ought to be for transparency and disclosure. I don't see a problem with that.
Look, I'm all for transparency and disclosure. If you know something about extraterrestrial life, I wish you'd tell me. Representative Tim Burchett, thank you for being here with us this morning. Appreciate the discussion.